So far, we have seen what are the different types of fields available in Sangam CRM. Now we will see how can you set the properties for different types of fields we offer in CRM and how you can set different properties for each field type. There are total 20 different types of field properties in Sangam CRM which you can set. Some of these properties are common to each and every field type, whereas some are dedicated to use for different field type. Let us go ahead and explore. First field property is name. Now, when we say name, it is basically used if you have created a record or a field on module level in CRM. Then, name is used to identify the field you have created in the module. Next property we have is type. Type field is used for identifying what will be the field type of the property you're creating. So, this field type is also a kind of property which we have to set. For example, if we want to create a drop-down field as select field type, then I will have to assign type as select. In the same way, if I want to create a date and time field in CRM, then I have to assign it as type field. The third property is called display label. Display label is the name of the field that we see on the front end in CRM, like follow-up date or lead source. So the follow-up date or lead source that you see, you set it somewhere at the back end, at the studio level. There, that name is displayed. So the display label is that which is shown to the user on the front end. That is the name displayed on your CRM screen. The fourth property we have is placeholder. Placeholder is used when we want to give some hint to the user, or we want to describe what kind of input can be accepted in this field. Next property we have is default value. Default value means if I want to provide some default input for any field. In case if I do not give any input there, then CRM should have a default value of its own. There we can set the default value. Default value is nothing but the input that is provided by default. Mapping is used to mark fields for other modules. For example, if I have contact number and email address available on a contact module. Now when I'm relating contact module with ticket module, I want the email or contact details available in my contact to be set automatically in the CRM's ticket module, so that the engineer from my service team can access that data even if they do not have access to the KYC database. In such cases, we can map it with contact, and I can use that information directly from the ticket module. So mapping functionality is used for this purpose, that is, the use of properties. Next property we have is length. Length means you can capture the length of the input you can provide for any field. What can be the maximum length which can be accepted as input? For example, if I have PAN number field available on the contact module, and I want that field length to be as per the PAN standards, so that I will be able to accept the input up to that length. Then I can put the field restriction on it by accessing properties. You can set only this much length for this field. When I want to mark any field in any module on CRM as required, the required property is used. Like if I have phone number available in contact module on CRM, if I want to make that field as mandatory, then in that case, I will go to that field and enable the required property. Then that field will be required there. For the fields which are required, if you are not providing that input, it won't let you save until you provide input. So it is mandatory for you to give that input for required field. Until and unless you provide that input, CRM will not let you save that record. Next property we have is read-only. Read-only is typically used for calculated field. It means if you have any information in CRM which is generated after some calculation or generated after being set, and I want all the users of my CRM to see that information, but not update, then in such cases, I have to make that information read-only. That is where you can use this property as read-only. For example, if I want to get the difference of two dates in CRM, or if my close date is getting populated based on the leads closure or opportunities closure, and I want those close dates to be visible to my team members so that they know when it was closed. But no one can edit that close date or no one can update it. In such cases, I can make the close date read only. Next property we have is global search. Global search, wherever you enable this property, you can use that field in global search. Now, a global search can be a little tricky because global search is available at the field level as well as on the module level. If you want to enable any field for any module in the global search, you have to keep in mind that you have enabled the global search option for that field, both at the field level and the module level. If the feature of global search is not enabled, but you are enabling the property of global search at field level, then you will not find that field globally enabled. And if you have not enabled that property of global search at field level, and you have enabled global search only at module level, even then you will not see that module field for global search. Next we have is mass update. The property of mass update allows you to enable any field for bulk update. Let us say I have 100 leads available in CRM. Now, out of these 100 leads, there are 25 leads which I have allocated to one of my existing team members who will work on the leads generated from the website. Through advanced search or basic search, I will first identify those leads from websites. Then I can allocate all these leads or records to one member by selecting them in one go. So, the mass update functionality can be enabled in any field for mass update, or it can be enabled for bulk updates. Next property we have is searchable. Whenever you enable a field as searchable, it means that I can search some CRM records or some CRM details on the basis of this field in CRM. For example, if we have enabled follow-up date for search, then I can filter out my data on the basis of that field in basic search or advanced search. So, if I want to see my follow-up date is in next 7 days, then I can identify how many leads are available with me. Next property we have is reportable. If we enable any field as reportable, then I start getting that field in the report. If we have not reported any field, then I cannot use that field at report level, neither in search nor in the column listings. So, if you want any field to be enabled for your reporting, you will have to enable reportable property in that field. Next property we have is automation, or it could be known as workflow. This property, if enabled, will allow you to have any automated activities in your system. Just like I gave you an example of closure date a while back. Whenever we mark a lead as closed, be positive closure as converted or negative closure as dead. I want to know when the lead is being converted or marked as dead. Then time should be captured in my system. The system time will be captured through workflow or through an automation, through which the date will be automatically captured. So when I want to auto capture the close date, I will have to enable this property of automation to be yes for the close date field. So as we discussed, this automation field type is used for conditions in workflow. You can also use it in actions in workflow from where you will be able to update it. Next property we have is check duplicate. If you have enabled this property on any field in CRM, then you can identify on the basis of this field if there is any duplicate in that module. For example, I have enabled phone field on the contact module for duplicate check. So next time whenever I'm creating any new contact, if I am providing the same contact number in new contact that is created, then CRM will check whether the phone number is already available in another contact or not. If it is, then in that case, it will display the information related to those details which are available in CRM. And it will let me know through a prompt that the contact which you are creating on the basis of phone number, a contact with that phone number is already available in CRM. So, check duplicate property is used for this purpose. As we can check for duplicate in the same way, I can control it myself in CRM. The results I am getting on the basis of that property. Like, I found duplicate in my system on the basis of a phone number. So, whether I want to allow my access to my users, they can see the duplicate. Yet, if I want to restrict whether they can create new record with the same phone number or not, if one contact with a certain phone number is available, don't create another account, another contact with it. Then I can use prevent duplicate property, which will enable me to disable the save button. If duplicate is found, then it will not allow you to save that contact for the second time with the same details. It will prevent same action for that duplicate record that is getting generated. Next property we have is checkout mapping. Checkout mapping is when we perform check in or checkout activities on any module during the time it is used. Suppose I have enabled checkout mapping for the lead status of lead module field. So, whenever I am performing any check in, check out for any lead, when I check out, I will be able to change the status of my lead from the same checkout form. So, it allows me an added advantage when I perform any activity, as in check in, check out by going to a location where I had a meeting with the client. At that time, when I'm checking out my location, then I can update the details of that lead in a single go. That is why you can enable this property for checkout mapping. What could be the other advantages? You can view leads, opportunities, or tickets, as in any transaction module where you interact with the user or with the client, you can enable this checking out map, this checkout mapping. Some of the best examples are mostly you can set up checkout mapping for those fields which are relevant to you. Whenever you are meeting a client or performing check in, checkout activity, if your users have to update maximum details at the record level. For example, after a meeting, I have to update the follow up date of a lead or an opportunity, or else I need to update the status or the due date of the ticket or add comments to the ticket. Then we can enable check in, checkout mapping for all these things. When you enable checkout mapping, you will get two options. Either you can update or you can append the existing inputs. After a while, we will see both of these inputs one by one. We have is the audit change log. Audit change log means if any field those whose input is changing, there are changes in the system, and if I want to track those changes, that how many times an input has changed in the system for a certain record, for that we can enable audit report, audit property. The fields for which you have enabled audit log, the number of changes in it over a period of time will be captured. One more thing that you need to keep in mind is audit logs are captured when that record is created. So, whenever you're creating any record, the inputs you're providing at that time are not captured in the change log. These logs are enabled after they are created, and after that, if anything changes, it will be tracked there. Next property we have is importable. When you enable the importable property for a field, you can enable that field for import file. That means if I am updating some data in lead or uploading it, I will get that field for import, where I can change the data of that field through bulk upload. Generally, there are three options for importable: yes, no, and required. Yes means I will get that field in import. It depends on me whether I want to use that field while importing some data in CRM or not. No means I will not get this field for import, so I cannot provide that import in the imported file. I can provide it to CRM. Required field means This field is required for importable if I want to upload anything in lead module and if lead status is required. And if I have not mentioned the lead status in the file for which I have created for import, then this file will not be accepted for import. It is mandatory to mention it. Next property we have is importable check update. Importable check update means it will allow you to check for duplicates in the CRM while creating, as well as it will enable it to update. If I am uploading list of records in CRM for the first time, for example, if I want to do a duplicate check, I have to see if there is any set of data with the combination of email and phone is already available in leads. There I can apply a check that when I create leads, I will skip all those leads which are already available in CRM. So, in this case, I will enable this importable check update for email and phone field. In the same way, when I update the record through input, I want to have that field for update. For example, we receive the number of the leads. So, if for lead number, I want to update some data through import on the basis of lead number, then I will enable these portable check updates for the field that has the number of the lead there, so that I can update the lead using this lead number while importing. So that was all about the properties in Sangam CRM. We saw which are the properties that you can use for any field type. Now, out of all the properties that I have shown you, there are some properties common to all field types. So, whatever common properties are available for all field types, let me just give you a quick overview of which are these properties which are common for each field type. Name is a common property which will be available for all types of fields, meaning you will have to give some name for each field so that you can identify it on CRM. That is why name field is a common field. Type means what is the field type of this field. Then that field type is also a common property which you will get for all types of fields. Display label is also common property because every field which should be displayed at the front end of CRM should have a label. It is required for all types of fields. That is why display label is also a common property. Audit is also a common property because whatever field you create in CRM, whenever there are any changes in each type of field, it may be required to be tracked. That is why audit is also available for each and every types of fields. Next is reportable. When you enable the reportable property for any field, you will get all those fields for analysis at the report level. So, reportable is also one of those properties which is common for all the field types. Irrespective of the field type, you can use all types of fields at the report level. That is why is available for all field types. Same is for the searchable field. You can search for any data in CRM for any type of field, be it in advanced search, basic search, or report search. So you can enable the searchable property for any type of field. Mass update is also a common property. This means that you can enable any type of field in mass update. Whether it is a text input, whether it is a date and time input, whether it is a select type of input, as in drop down. Wherever you will enable any type of field for mass update, you can enable it for a bulk update. So, mass update is also a common property if a user does not provide any input for default value for some field. Then, what can you provide as a default input? This is also a common property which is available for every field type. Ideally, you should not encourage default input because if you are providing a default input or default value for any of the field types, users tend to never change that field input. That is what we have seen in our years of experience. That is why we recommend you should use the default value only when it is required. That is, if no input is being captured, then what is the system default that you want to capture from the analysis point of view? But other than that, always discourage the use of default value until and unless it is required. Mapping properties means that mapping that is available with us. From which relationship do we have to access that mapping and which field in which relationship is to be used for mapping? You can consider all these fields available for mapping in common properties. because you can map to any type of field. Last but not the least is automation, or you can say workflow. This property that means automated properties of any type of field in system or workflows, etc., which we configure in the backend. In that process, I can enable any type of field. And that is why automation is also a common property. So, now we will see the field properties I told you about. Let us see a demo of how those field properties look like on the screen or how you can use it. So, this is my CRM. Here, whatever different field types of properties are available, to explore that, I will just go ahead and show you where you will find field properties. So, whenever you are going to create a new field, first of all, you have to select the type of field here, where you can mention what kind of input you are expecting or what you can accept for this field. So, as soon as you mention the select field here, that means you're providing the field type. Whatever properties are available related to that field type, you will see all those properties here in CRM. And against each and every property, there is an info icon available. When you hover on that info icon, it will tell you what that property means and what it does. Like here, I'm hovering over the name. It is telling me that it captures the name of the field that is stored in the database. Means it will store the name of this field in the database, the name by which the database will identify this field. So, name property is used for this purpose. In the same manner, the display label is available here, where you will mention the display name. In short, in front end of your CRM, that field will be shown by that name everywhere. It will be it in layouts, in search, in reports, etc. So these are all the different properties that are available in the text input type. Placeholder is available where you can mention what kind of input you're expecting for this type of field. Like for any website, I want my users to know this is the field for the website. So I can give a placeholder like https www.website.com or something like that, so that they know that the input of this field is expected like this. I will show you one live demonstration of how the website field looks like. Let's go to the companies module. Here the website information which we fill in companies. I see a placeholder there. Like here you can see https www.example.com. So this is my placeholder which is giving me a hint of what kind of input can be captured in the website field. So if you have defined placeholders, then it will look like this. I will show you the backend also, where this placeholder is mentioned. So we will go to the account module, which is known as companies in the front end. And here we will see the properties of our website field. So if I want to see the properties of an existing field, then you can click on the three dots related to that field you see here. And you can use this option of edit properties so that you will see all the properties that are available for the field. Similarly, input of default value is available here, where you can set the default value property of any field like mapping properties, length property, required property, etc. So these are all the different types of properties that are available. As soon as you select a field, all the properties related to that field will appear here. Here are some properties which I wanted to explore in more detail. For example, there is a mapping field here. If we enable mapping, which allows me to map information of this field with some other field of the related module, so here the mapping option is only to enable whether I want this information to be captured from the related module or not. As soon as it is enabled, two more properties get enabled in the properties, which is mapped from the module. Means you can select from which module you want to map the data of this field. You can select that here. Here you can choose the relationship of the module whose data you want to map. For that, you can get the link of all the relationships of this module and other modules of CRM. Suppose I enable this companies module over here. It means here I want mapping from companies module on this module. I want to feed some information from the company module here in this field. For what information you can feed, a complete list of mapping fields appear here. Here you can choose which information of company modules field can be stored in this field. On this module, you can check that here. Suppose I want to get the PAN number of the company mapped here. You can use it in this way. Similarly, there are some properties in CRM that are automatically set as soon as you create a new field. For example, the property of mass update, searchable property, flow property, reportable property. All these properties are enabled by default. That means every time I have some common properties which are relevant for each and every type of field, and they are required for every type of field, those inputs need not be enabled every time for those properties. For example, every field which is a reportable field will be required as reportable. Because when I am pulling any report, I do not want to keep on switching between Studio and my reports to see in which module and in which field my reports are not enabled. I need to enable it beforehand and will use it later in the report. That's why reportable property is enabled by default for all the fields. In the same way, mass update property is also enabled for all the fields. Means you can use any type of field in mass update depending on your use case. If you do not want any field to be available to your users in mass update, then you can uncheck this property. Searchable properties is again a common property, and that is why it is enabled by default. This means that I can search any data input anytime on any type of field in CRM, irrespective of the fact that whether that field is text, drop down, or any other type of field. If you enable search, then you will find that field enabled by default in the basic search, in advanced search, and in the report for searching purposes. In the same way, the default property of the workflow automation should also be enabled so that whenever you want automate any action on any module, you can do it. Now let us go ahead and see how these properties I told you about behave at the front end. For example, I have the mapping available here. On ticket module, I have mapping enabled on the phone field. On ticket module, I want the phone number of the contact whose relationship is available to automatically map on the phone field in the ticket. So here we have set up such a mapping. How does it behave at the front end? Let's check that once. Let's go ahead and create one ticket at the front end. Here I have opened the ticket creation screen. As soon as we create a contact here, the phone number available in that contact will be automatically set. Let's go ahead and select one such contact where the phone number is available. If you want to use that record to verify whether you have that phone number or not, you can preview it from here. Let's go ahead and see. I have phone number available for this contact. I will select it here. And you can see as soon as I select the contact, both phone and email information were auto-captured. So this means like phone, even email field is also mapped with the contact module. So as soon as I select any contact on the ticket, my phone and email input is auto-set. Similarly, another property is placeholder. In this, you can tell the user what kind of input you're expecting for a field. Here I have opportunity name in the opportunity module. I have given a placeholder here so that my users understand what kind of name of the opportunity they can expect as a input. For example, I have ordered XX numbers of YY product for ZZ company. Means when they are putting the name of opportunity, they should specify what is required, which client requires this, and in what quantity. so that when anyone sees the name of the opportunity, they will understand why this opportunity has been created. Placeholder is used for this purpose only. If I see at the front end, it looks something like this. Here I will know what input I'm expecting for this field type. As soon as you type something, the placeholder will be removed. But if you have not provided any input, then you will see that placeholder so that you can decide what kind of input you have to enter in this field. Similarly, there is another property in CRM, audit, which we have discussed. Whenever you enable audit property for any field, then that field makes some changes in CRM. So, what was its value earlier and what did that value change to? Both these things are captured in that log. Here I have sales stage in opportunity module. It is enabled for the audit property. So, if I go ahead and see for any one of my opportunities, if I see the change log, I will get the complete log of how many times sales stage has been changed. Now, how does change log work? If you want to know this, then you can refer to section 2 of the available user course. There, all these details are covered. For now, I just explained that you can see all the changed fields in the log. Who has changed it, their name, the name when this change happened, and which fields were changed, all this is captured. Also, what was its previous value and what was its current value. These things are captured in the log. You can search from there. Another property we have is read only, which we discussed just a while ago. When you mark any field as read only, then users can see the input of that field but can't change that. And as I recommended, you have to keep field inputs as read only when you are deriving the input out of that field from somewhere or getting it from somewhere else. I have sales stage of the opportunity here. I have kept it on opportunity sales stage quotation just to see what is the current stage of my opportunity. Here I have created a sales stage field in the quotation to map the sales stage of the opportunity. And there the sales stage of opportunity is mapped. For this, here I have kept the properties of sales stage of opportunity module as read only. So if I go to the quotation, you will see that I cannot edit or change the sales stage. So here, as we select an opportunity, the sales stage of that opportunity will be automatically captured. Since it is read only, I cannot update it. I can only see what its sales stage is. So that is how you can use read only property. Similarly, we have another opportunity available which is searchable. Let's see how searchable works. Whenever you enable any field as searchable, in that case, as you can see here, you can search for field in basic search and for search once. The search bar does not appear for fields which are not enabled as searchable. Similarly, the advanced search option is available to us. The field listing that I get here is on the basis of what fields I have enabled. Let's go ahead and see for one of the search fields in opportunity module, that is sales stage. If I see sales stage on the list, I can see sales stage here in the advanced search. On that basis, I can search for opportunities in CRM. If I disable this property of searchable and I save this from the studio, then I cannot apply search on the sales stage field which is available on my property, on my opportunity. And to verify that, we can just refresh the screen. We have removed the searchable property of the sales stage. Now, if I go to advanced search and if I search for the sales stage, then I will not find it here. It was available here before. That is because we have disabled the property of the sales stage. So if you want sales stage to be enabled for your search, you will have to enable searchable property in the sales stage here. Good thing is, this property is a common property which is enabled by default. So you don't have to check it every time. Now, next property we have is audit. We just saw here on sales stage how you can enable or disable its searchable field. In the same way, the audit property can be disabled as well. Again, audit is a common property that is enabled by default. So if you have to disable it for any field because you don't want to track that log, then you can disable it as well. If it is enabled, then what is the benefit? Let us see that once. Let's say I have a list of opportunities here. Opportunities are available in a list which is Anvit Sons and Company. They had raised some opportunity related to CRM, and the stage of that opportunity at present is CRM is closed. So, who closed this opportunity? I want to see that. Also, what was its status before it was closed? I want to see that. Then I can see these changes in the change log. As soon as I open the change log, I get an option where I can search. As soon as I typed sales, I found two changes related to sales stage. I got them in the change log. Why did I get these changes? Because in sales stage field, we had enabled the audit property. When sales stage is enabled in audit, then whenever that field changes, I will get all its logs on system. Who has changed it? When was it changed? What was its value earlier? Then what changed? All those things I see here in change log. So these are the reportable property. In what way can it be used? So here I have ticket source available on the ticket module. If I see its properties, here its report table property is enabled. If it is enabled, I can use it in any report. Here I have opened one report, which is customer-wise ticket analysis. Here you can see when I search for ticket source in the available list of fields. I see them here. I can use this field by selecting it and using it in the reports. This is possible only when that field enabled as reportable. As I see this field which is enabled, it is because its reportable properties are on. Suppose I turn it off and save it. So now if I go to this report, I open the same report in another tab. And now if I search for ticket source, then I will not get this field here. That is because when I used this field earlier, at that time, the reportable property of ticket source was on. But then I disabled it. So now I will not get that field here, nor will it be found here in the report. That is why reportable property is also a common property and it is enabled by default. So anybody can use it as and when required. Next, let us see how to use the mass update property. I have opened the Studio of Opportunity module. In opportunities, I want to enable the field of assigned user in mass update because I want to assign multiple opportunities to a person at the same time. Here, we will open assigned to field and the mass update properties of this field will be seen here. These are enabled. This is the mass update property and it is enabled here. Since it is enabled, if I go to the list of opportunities and if I select a couple of opportunities which I have to transfer to someone else in my team, so here all get enabled by the mass action. Here is the pencil icon which denotes mass update. I'll click on it. So here I have the field of assign to. It is because we have enabled this field for mass update. Now what happens if I don't enable this field? Let's say I disable this field. I save this property. Let's look again. What changes will take place if I don't enable it? We can open a duplicate of this tab. It will give me the list of opportunities that are available in the system. So we have disabled the mass update property for the assigned user field on opportunity. So if I go ahead and update these three opportunities which I have to transfer to another user in my team. And now if I open the mass update action, here I don't get the field of assigned to. That is because we had disabled the mass update property of that field. So, if that field property is enabled, you will get mass update on assigned to. And if you keep it disabled, then you will not find that field here for mass update. Next, let us see how we can use the property of display level, which we saw earlier. Here I have Opportunity Studio settings opened. The display label of the account name that I have here is currently displayed as account name. Display label is something you can see at the front end. What is the name of that field? I can see the account name here. That's because in Opportunity, the account or the company which we tag in Opportunity, its name is account name. I have to rename it. And I want to display label on the front end for this property to be company name. So here we will change the display label. Instead of account name, I'll write company name here and save it. As soon as we save it, wherever account names reference is used on Opportunity module, all those references will be changed as company name because I have changed its display label. You can see that in the studio as well. The account name was visible earlier, which is now reflecting as company name. And now if I refresh the list of opportunities, even in the opportunities, it is renamed as a company name, which was the account name earlier. So you can see here our company name has been renamed. Now it is not showing as account name. If you see here, it was visible as account name earlier. This is changed and now it has become the company name. That is what the disable label can do for you. Next, we'll see how required property is used. Here we have the name field in the company which is required. How can you identify it? This red line I get here, there is a red bar which is showing me a vertical red bar against the name input, which indicates that this input is mandatory. How can we identify this mandatory input? For that, let's go to the studio. We will go to the account module. And here, name field is available. Let us see its properties once. Here in the properties, you can see that this is the required property. It is enabled. That is why the name on account module is mandatory. So, it is required at the moment. As soon as provided with the name of the company, the input turns green, which indicates that this is a required input. But I have provided the required input. If you leave the required field blank, then it will not allow you to save. It will tell you that you have missed this required field input on the form and that it is required. You provide it first. After that, you will be able to save this record. Next property we have is global search. So this global search property, like we discussed just a while ago, should be enabled on both the levels. At field level as well as at the module level. Only then you can use global search. Here on account, name field is enabled for global search. So if I go to the global search option and search for a company name here, the results I get here are obtained by identifying on the basis of the company name because I have enabled global search on the company name field. If I disable this and save it, so I have disabled global search for account name. As you can see, here I have disabled the property of global search for account name. So now if I want to search by the name of the company here on global search, but I have disabled it at module level. So even if global search is enabled on any of these fields of account module, I won't find those inputs when I search. When I search. That's because we disabled global search there. Right now I have enabled global search. If I search company's name here, I will search NJIT again. Then it should be displayed because I have enabled global search on field level on company name. But I should have enabled global search at the module level. It is not done. That is why it is not giving me the result. Whenever you want to use global search, you will need to enable this functionality at field level as well as module level. Only then you can use it. Now let us see how does the check duplicate property work. Here we are here on contact module. I have email field available in contact module. In email field, you can see property of check duplicate is enabled. Okay? So, if I create a new contact on email, based on email, it will tell me whether any contact of this email ID is already available in my CRM or not. We have kept the contact open here for reference. And here I have some email IDs in this contact. Let's say I copy this email ID and I create a new contact. So when I'm creating the contact, if I provide email address here, it will check and tell me that a contact of this email address is already available in my CRM. You can see something like this on my screen. Email is already available. You will get a pop up like this. So I will know that this email address is already on my contact module. All the references of email IDs that I find on my contact module will be shown here in the list. For example, here is the contact of Kapil Dev. It is visible. I can see it. I get the email address and the phone number here. If I hover on it, I can see all the email addresses of this contact. Similarly, if I hover over the phone, I get to know the phone numbers. And if I want to know who is assigned to this contact, from here I can see the details of assigned to. So this is how duplicate check can be used. Next, let us see how the prevent check duplicate property is used. But here we have enabled duplicate check on the email field. But we have not checked prevent check duplicate. So if I enable duplicate prevention, it shows me an option here. If you have to check if this is duplicate, then you want to check it for what? You have to check duplicates on all emails or just on the primary emails which is there in contact. I'll put it as all here. If I want to get this email address only in the primary email address, then don't let this contact be created again. If it is available in the secondary email address of some other contact, then let it allow and create a new contact with this email address as primary email addresses. Right now, I have to check all the emails that if this email address is available on any contact, then I want it to not create another account for this email address in my system, even if it is in the secondary email address. We will keep it enabled on all and let's save it. Settings have been saved. Right now, I have a contact open here, Vaishnavi Patel. I have two email addresses. Let's say I have copied this second email address. Now, as soon as I copy this email address, if I want to create a new contact with the same email address, system will check whether that email address already exists or not. We want to create another contact with this same email address. As soon as I enter the email address, you can see that this save button is disabled because this email address found in some other account. So prevent check duplicate does this for you. If I get that email address anywhere else at the contact level, then it will not allow me to save it unless the email address I provide for the new contact is a unique email address which is already in use by the contact. So let's see how the checkout property available to us works. Here I have opened the ticket module. In ticket module, I have enabled checkout mapping of two fields. I have a field called status. Here we have enabled checkout mapping for status. You can see I've enabled checkout mapping here and I have selected the field for which I want to enable checkout mapping here. You get this checkout mapping field here only when on activity module, that is, the module on which we perform the check-in or check-out, where we store the activities of check-in and check-out. there this field had to be enabled. So this is my ticket module where you can see I have a ticket status field. I already have this status field available in activity module. I have used the same DOM on it, which is available to me for status in ticket module. This option is available. It is same here and on ticket model as well. That's why I'm getting this checkout for mapping. So here on the status field, I have enabled checkout mapping. And I have enabled mapping on the field of resolution. You can see that. Because it is a descriptive field, I get two options. Either I can append or I can map it. When we append it at the time of checkout on descriptive fields, it means that I check out with the existing resolutions available and I have to append the resolution which I have mentioned here with the existing resolution. If we put it in mapping, it means that my existing resolution is, which someone had mentioned as input earlier. Now you remove that resolution and override it with the resolution I provided with the resolution I provide while checking out. Mapping means it will override. If you append, then it will append an existing one. Also, when you map for descriptive fields, you get a status field of checkout where you can map additional information if you want. Like, I have the status of support ticket here or the support mode of the ticket. I can get both captured here. Now, I have selected support mode. Whenever my description will be updated for resolution, the support mode will be updated with it. Now, let's see how we can see this complete setting live in mobile application. So, I will go to my mobile application. So, this is my login screen. I have opened my dashboard. I have a ticket available here in CRM on which I had already checked in. Now I'm checking out on that ticket. As soon as I check out, some details will be autofilled here. Means the name of the activity that I performed on the ticket module is being displayed here. Below that you can see that I have the check-in time. At what time I had checked in. Checkout time is there as well. Where can I see when I check out? Below that there is an option status. Now this status is the status of your ticket because we had enabled the status of the ticket for checkout mapping. I am getting this field enabled here. I updated my ticket status from here. Now you can see I also enabled the resolution field. But that field is not visible here. That is because we have enabled that field in mapping for resolution. But I forgot to put it here on check-in, checkout form. So we have to place the check-in, checkout from here on the resolution field. After placing this field here, you will have to enable it once with the sync notification of the mobile application so that every user who is using the mobile application gets notified that you have updated some settings of mobile application from studio level. So it will have to sync the layout of the mobile application or any other setting that has been changed. So we will go ahead and click on this option called Send Sync Notification. You can see as soon as I clicked on the Send Sync Notification, I got a notification on mobile. I am being asked, do you want to sync the mobile layouts? I will enable it. As soon as I enable it, whatever layout changes have happened in this mobile application, they will be synced completely. And by the time it is syncing, you can do one more thing here. When it is complete, you can get a message below that your sync is complete. And if you are in a hurry, you can sign out from here and sign back in once again. As I have just signed out here, I will provide my credentials again. So as soon as I'm logged in back to my mobile application, all the changes that have been made in the mobile application will be synced. Now I am getting a notification here that I had checked in for an activity and a checkout is pending on it. I'll go to that ticket from the menu here and do the checkout. My checkout times have been updated here. I changed it as I have to assign the status of the ticket as in progress. Now you can see here the field of resolution is enabled. So we will enter the resolution here. So I have entered the resolution here. Now we will save this checkout activity. As soon as I am checked out, if I go to that specific ticket on which I have just performed this checkout, so this is the activity on which I had performed the check-in and check-out. The ticket on which I performed this activity and the related ticket can be accessed here from the activity details. As soon as I opened this ticket, you can see that it is showing the status of the ticket in progress. That means that I had changed the status of the ticket while checking out. Those changes are getting reflected here. Also, the resolution of the ticket that we had given, there was a description here. That description, along with its date and time, has been captured here. Whatever I had provided is visible here. That is how checkout mapping feature works. Now let's see those two import related properties which we have here. Import check and update and importable. How are these two properties used? Here I have a format of contact module ready. There I have details like first name, last name, designation, account name, email and phone. I want to import this sheet into CRM. Now if I go ahead and see in my contact module, I have first name, last name fields are here. How can we check properties of importable? So here you will understand that the first name is importable. That means I will get this field for mapping when I import it. In the same way, when I am on the last name in contact module field, I can see it as importable. Importable is set as yes. If we make it required and save it, and if I don't provide last name for one of these records, then this record in which I am not providing the last name will not be imported. Because I have not provided a mandatory input which is for last name, which is required at the time of import, similarly, I have one more contact available, which is already available on CRM. The name of that contact is Kapil Dev. The details are available here. The phone and email of this contact. That is the same as it was available in the CRM. So let us see what we want to check for these email and phone fields and how we can enable that field. Along with email, we also enabled the same setting on phone because I want the combination of both phone and email. If it is available on any of my contacts, then that contact will not be uploaded again when I'm importing a fresh file. So we have checked the importable properties. I have importable properties enabled for these 5 fields. We have enabled check duplicate on phone and mobile fields. Now my import file is ready. We will export this file as CSV. So now let us see the field which we have prepared here. When I upload it, how can I update based on this while uploading? How can I make a check for duplicates? For now, what I'm showing you is for updating any existing database. Wherever I have contact information already available in CRM, I have to update that. We will go ahead with this import. I'll select my file here and we will select this second option because I have to update the existing records. After that, we'll choose next. We will quickly move to the last part of the step of import where I can get duplicates checked while input or I can Where can I get duplicates checked while input, or I can update it? Here you can see I have three options available: email, phone and record ID. On the basis of this, I can update information in CRM. Here I will take combination of email and phone because I want to update the records in my CRM. It should be updated only when I have email and phone, which I am providing in my sheet. Phone and email same as it is. I can get it on my CRM. We will say import. As soon as the import file is processed, you will get a notification as bell icon here mentioning that your import has been successful. You can see that my import is done. I will just click on this notification from where I can see the properties of the import file. The records that I had kept in the import, how many of those records have been successfully updated? You can see that two of my records have been successfully updated on the basis of its combination phone and email. And there is one record which has not been uploaded. I had provided the record of Malvi. Why is the record not updated? Let's see. There is no duplicate error here. Let's see on the basis of error. It shows that my last name was given at the time of import as required. This is what we mentioned as required in the importable property. It is used in this way. If we have mentioned any input as required at the time of import, and in my file, if the input of that importable file is missing for any one record, then that information will not be updated and it will show me an error. I can download this error record and do the further processing on it. This is how you can use import properties. So, till now, we saw that was all about what kind of fields are available in CRM, what types of properties are available in CRM, and how can you use the combination of properties at field level to your advantage. Now we are going to discuss a very important topic, which is field creation. By creating a field according to your business process, you can customize your CRM as much as you want. But there are some guidelines that we want to give you, and that is what this section is all about. First of all, let's understand why we create a field in CRM. What is the purpose of field creation? It is very critical to identify this. The first point is to store the information, means I need a field to store that information which is in CRM, like name of the people and name of the companies that you deal with. This information is important to me. I need to store it. So, for that, a field should be created in CRM. If I'm updating something in CRM, like my ticket is getting updated, my leads follow up are being updated, my opportunity is updated, then this is an important information of transactions that I am doing with any customer. The information that is getting updated, what was its status earlier, what is the status now, I have to track its entire life cycle. For these kind of changes, we have to maintain their status, or else we need to manage the process flow which requires field inputs. So that is when you should create a field. For example, as we talked about sales stage, use of ticket status, and there is some information which I have to use at the later stage. For example, a phone or email address for communication or any marketing activities that I have to go ahead and perform on the customer database. Then this information is very crucial. To store this information, you must have fields in CRM. Next is for reporting analysis. Means if I have to pull a report from CRM, then to identify the property which has crucial parameters for my segments of business, I have to store those inputs, like this industry is in which segment, or which domain is it where my product can bring me the most business, where it can be used the most. It is important for me to identify such domains of industries. For that, I should have field inputs. On the basis of that, I can do the reporting analysis. Similarly, we have the ticket, opportunity type, whether it is existing business or new business, status, close date of an opportunity. So these are some examples where you can use this information from reporting analysis point of view. And for those fields should be in your CRM. There is one more important parameter than this, which is OPR. So, OPR and reporting analysis is the end point of everything. Whatever data you feed as input in CRM, if its outcome is not measured, your CRM is useless. To measure the outcome and for that to be successful, We have given you so many default fields, be it from the status point of view, be it from your date identification point of view, or any specific details which are required on the module requirement, like industry type, domain, lead source. We have provided all these required fields by default because we know that these are crucial parameters which need reporting and analysis. In the same way, if you have some inputs which are frequently required to track, so in that case also you must have input fields like your follow up date. For any number of times when I connect with my customers for any lead, those many times I have to store that when my next meeting with them is going to be. So, this information is crucial for me and it will appear again and again on any lead or opportunity or ticket. So, to save these parameters, you should have fields. So, these are some of the reasons why you should have a field that is to be created in CRM. You have to store some information, track the status of any information, and use it at the later stage. Just as contact details had to be used from reporting analysis point of view, or the same type of input is being captured in multiple time when you have to identify that and do some analysis on that. Now, before you create the field, there are some critical thoughts that we have to share with you. First of all, the field you're creating in CRM, does your team know that you have created that field? Most of the times it happens that you create a field being the CRM admin. But the team that is going to use CRM or the team that works on that module, for example, you have a sales process, you have entered a new field input on lead or opportunity. But if your sales team does not know why you have entered that field input or what is its purpose, they will not feed any information in it, and as an end result, these things will not be updated there or users will not provide input there, which will lead to the downfall of this property. That's why it is very crucial when you are creating any field, always have that field documented, and this document should be shared with everyone in your overall organization who uses CRM. So that at any point of time, if they have to identify which field is being used for what purpose by your organization, they will know. Next point we have is drop down dates. Drop down dates is something which is related to the confusion of the drop downs. Many times it happens that a customer provides different categorizations for the same type of inputs in the same dropdown. An example of this is lead source. Customers provide many such parameters in the lead source which provide the same type of lead source like call, cold call, marketing calls. It is not recommended that you use lot of different nomenclatures to store the same type of input or use aliases which can be confusing for your team. It could lead to a trouble in the reporting section. The second reason is that many values are provided in a single dropdown. Now, dropdown has a standard identification, countable number of inputs which you can count on finger. If those many inputs are going to be there for that field, then only you should go ahead and create a dropdown. The values of the dropdown should never exceed 25 and max to max 28 to 30. If you have drop-down classifications more than that, then you need to rethink if this drop-down classification is required or there is some other way that you can manage the same. If drop-downs are too long, then it will be difficult for the team to manage as well as for you to identify and report. Again, there is one more point related to drop-down. Many times, let's say for example, product category had a drop-down input. There was a product that you were dealing with in the earlier years. Another crucial concern is many a times what customers do is that previously they had created a drop down in which there was some value. That value is not needed now, hence they removed it. For example, earlier I used to deal in a product, let's say thin client. Now I do not deal in that product. So my team removed that product category in which the value of thin client was that was available in the drop down because we don't sell that product right now. This is a disaster. This should not be done. If you do this, let's go ahead and see what problems will this create. Whatever business you did with thin client over the years, you will have some opportunities available with them, or there will be some leads. Or if you had given thin client support, then there are some tickets made for that thin client. Now, when my team removes that value from call drop down, wherever I used that product category, be it on the lead, opportunity, or ticket, where the thin client is mentioned as the product category will get removed. As a reason, the record that was there is off now because I was not able to identify for which product was this lead, opportunity, or ticket. So it is very crucial that you never remove any value which you have provided earlier in any drop down. If for some reason you have to remove that value, always ensure that you are first removing the value of that field. You also have an existing set of records to match that value, be it lead, support unit, ease tickets, or anything else. Transfer it to any other category that is currently available in that drop down. Many times it happens that we give the field to the users, but they do not provide input in the field. So you have to think that if I provide any field to my users and they are not providing input there, or they are providing some inputs which are irrelevant, where would that lead? If these inputs are not proper, then you will not be able to access CRM properly and you will not be able to track that data. So it becomes crucial that you discuss the parameters you're providing with your team. If it is really required, then only provide those fields for input. Otherwise, even if you are providing it, your team will not enter any data in it. Those fields will be of no use because no input is entered into it. Next is compulsory fees. Now, many a times customer thinks that users database is not being updated. They are not maintaining KYC. So I will make RFI mandatory. That way my team will start managing KYC. When this is done, it seems logical. But after certain days, when you analyze your data, you will get to know that your team will slowly stop entering the data in the modules which has the maximum number of required fields. Like I gave the example of KYC. Suppose your sales team talks to 25 people a day and they are a team of 3 people. If 3 people talk to 25 people and out of that your new prospects who show interest are 10 every day, then these 10 contacts information should be updated, should be uploaded in your CRM. But because you have made all the information mandatory, there are some salesperson who are coordinating on email, some salesperson are coordinating only on the phone, but you have kept both email and phone mandatory for the record creation. Till the time they have both, it will not be updated in your CRM. So now imagine that until that information is not in CRM, where your salesperson are managing it. If it is being managed in the WhatsApp, in their phone books, or in Excel, I can guarantee that this data will never come back to the CRM. That is why it is recommended that you should have only minimum number of required inputs wherever it is required. Otherwise, always trust your team that they will add the available inputs here and you do not have to provide each and every field as mandatory. Another crucial thing is whenever you're creating any new field, it is recommended that you yourself try 10 entries where that field input is required. When you will do 10 entries, you will know if the fields you have created whether they are really required for your business or not. If it is required, then your team will use it. You will be able to identify the analysis in the next coming 2 or 3 days. And if it is not being used, you can take the decision if you want to remove that field since it is not being used or it is not relevant to your business process. If it is in use, then make sure that it is known to your each and every team member individually. Second thing is you have to check this also. The field inputs you have provided here, or the field name which is mentioned, or the way in which that field is behaving, whether it is being communicated directly to your team or not, or they have to ask someone again and again that how is this field used. So that is also something you need to take care of before you create a field. And similarly, whenever you are creating a field, always try to see the reporting analysis. When you pull reports of that field, how are those reports appearing? If those reports are not generated as you want, that means there is something that needs to be changed in that field type. You should make those changes first, then you should make that field available to all your members in the team. Next, we will discuss a very important field type. By the way, we have discussed all the fields in great detail. But this field type is the one which we need to emphasize more because that is really crucial from the CRM point of view. And that field type is select, or you can also call it as drop down. Now, drop downs can be really tricky because when you create drop down, then you do not know that drop down field is required for that input or normal field input is required. So, here we have a suggestion. Whenever you're creating a drop down, always keep in mind when you will create a drop down. First, if the inputs you are creating are very frequent and it is almost the same, if you can categorize those, then it should be created as a drop down. So you can reduce the redundancy of your inputs. Second, like I told you a while ago as well, if you can count the values of the inputs that are to be received, if you can count them on your fingers, then only you should create it as a drop down. Third, if you want to avoid manual errors for such kind of input, so at that time you create a drop down. And fourth, when you think that on this specific parameter it is very crucial for me to extract OPR or reporting analysis, at that time you can create a drop down. Now let me rephrase again. These are the 4 points I've told you: reducing the inputs, limited number of inputs, avoiding manual errors, and crucial input for OPR and report analysis. If these 4 parameters match your criteria, then only you can go ahead and create your field as a drop down. Otherwise, rethink over how you want to use this field. What is its purpose? How are you going to use it? And then only go ahead and decide the status. Other than this, there is another thing you can do if you have answers to these 4 questions. Then go to the CRM and check if the same type of input as the type of field you want to create is already being captured in another field. For example, the source that we receive, source can be common for lead as well as for the opportunity. So in such cases, you can use the same source, DOM, or the same source list for both the modules. Then you don't need to create separate source list for opportunity or lead. You can use that same list that is available on lead on opportunity. Second thing while deciding the drop-down is identify the need to categorize the drop-down. The first point in this is to set up the pairing of that drop-down for categories and subcategories. If we have any such input where the number of my input is categorizable, but that categorization is too long, what can we do in that case? We can decide which are the major categories out of these, and then according to these categories, we can provide subgroupings for each category. For example, let's say I have some products. Total number of products are around 50 to 55. Rather than creating a single drop down of 55 products, better than that, we can do this. I will create main categorization for the major source of categories or major products first, like CRM, Synapse, Sugam Tally Cloud, and Sampark Setu, etc. So these are my 4 main products. Now for each and every subcategory of products, I can add to any one of these subcategories. Like for CRM, let's say to differentiate Sangam CRM and Free Sangam CRM, then Sangam CRM and Free Confluence CRM will be the subcategories of CRM as the main product categories. Next is the sanity of the drop-down value. Sanity of drop-downs is really crucial because if you have provided the same type of drop-down value in different ways in the same list, your users will get confused. Like I have given you the example of lead source. You have given the option of cold calling and calling as well. In this case, your users will not know when to put it in cold calling and when in calling. It is better that you give them only one option, which will minimize their confusion and it will be clear to them what they have to select as a source. Another thing could be done that the two values that I have, they have a similar meaning. So in that case also, we can minimize the drop-down values. We can remove the duplicate values from the drop-down, post moving their existing records to one of the available values. Next is auto-allocate the leads or tickets based on the selected value. Now if I want to auto-allocate the tickets or the leads that I'm receiving, then in that case also, we can use drop-downs. Like I have leads that are generated from the website. I have to assign those leads to my marketing team. If I have this classification as a drop down, then I can use it in the workflow. I can set such conditions in my workflow that if I have a lead source from the website, then assign it to such and such person. Next is you can also do the same process for product specific tickets. If there are tickets for any specific products, then that product should be allocated to them. We must avoid orphan records for drop downs. So, like I said, if you're deleting any drop down, then don't delete it directly. First, transfer its data, that is, map existing drop down values where you can and then remove. Similarly, verify each and every record that has been transferred. Is there any record that still exists? First, confirm it, verify it, then delete it. So, this was all about what are the different types of fields and properties available. What precautions do you have to take? But along with these, there is one more thing that I want to share with you. When you use the studio, it becomes mandatory for you to take some precautions. And we recommend never to overdo the studio. Most of the times, customers get engaged in the technical stuff so much that they forget to focus on their business process. Please make sure that Studio is only there to make your life easier so that you get the maximum out of the minimum inputs. But as far as possible, avoid making any changes in the CRM because we have tried to provide you with the standardized CRM which is used by a lot of business setups. Only change wherever it is really required. Don't overdo it. You will have to handle the studio very carefully. So, you will always have to decide to whom you're going to assign the responsibility of your studio properties. It is recommended that in an organization, generally do not assign more than one user to manage an admin section or backend activities because in Studio, we do not keep any kind of tracks. When changes take place, their logs are not managed. So, if one person is changing something, it may affect your entire business cycle, and there may be some crucial changes in your CRM as well, which could lead to a disaster. So, avoid this. Next is how often should you make changes in the studio? So, like I said, Studio is here to help you. Whatever your business process changes are, you should be able to do it by yourself at your end. That's why we have given you the studio, not to increase the confusion of your team by adding as many custom fields as possible during their entries. So make as little changes as possible in the studio, and wherever you're doing any changes, always discuss those with your team. Don't overdo it. This point we have already covered. Why shouldn't you do it? It is to help your business process and not to complicate the system. So, this was it about the studio fields and properties. I hope you liked this section. Please drop your comments and your feedback related to this video in the comment section below. Thank you so much.